morning. I'm delighted to be here with you today to talk to you about my favorite subject, me. Just kidding. I usually don't talk about myself. I usually leave that subject or that talking to other people. I'm always the engaged listener. There's so much to one's life, isn't there? My most dreaded interview question usually is, so, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, now I finally have that down after going through many interviews and having a job now at the Chamber of Commerce. And I have it down to my most favorable traits and accomplishments. But today I'd like to stop and tell you a little bit about my childhood, my upbringing. I grew up in Kansas City, in South Kansas City in Waldo, and I grew up poor, food stamp poor. But my siblings and I were too proud to allow my parents to use food stamps. Back then, food stamps came in a coupon book, and it took an eternity to get to the checkout line. And you felt all the people staring at you, even though they probably weren't. We lived in a 1,300 square foot house with 6 people at one time and no air conditioning. But we were lucky because my father's boss allowed him to rent the house for a very low price. I think it was $100 a month. This is over 20 years. And we also did not have a car. Now, my siblings and I were the perfect example of the free-range kids. We went everywhere by ourselves. On a Saturday, we would scrounge up change and we would go down to the plaza to a PG movie on our own. We would walk and bike all over the city. Now, we didn't have a car because both of my parents had disabilities, which prevent them from driving. My father has cerebral palsy. And he's had this since birth. Apparently, he had this because there was an error, a medical error, with the forceps, which didn't allow enough oxygen to go to his brain. And so this has affected his muscles. He has a very kind of a staggered gait. He can't hold a cup of coffee without shaking a bit. And his speech is somewhat thick and slurred. Some of the kids at school used to say, "Why is your father always drunk?" Well, I could comprehend everything he would say, but sometimes he would have to repeat himself to strangers. And my father is the most optimistic, persistent person I know. He's been through so much. He's had 3 hip replacements, and at this point, he is no longer able to eat. He has to be fed through a tube because of his muscles. He can no longer swallow. But he never complains, ever. And my mother also has a disability. She has a seizure disorder. Now, this is not like epilepsy. It's quite a bit different. I never knew how to describe this to other kids, or actually people, until my son, now 9 years old, had a night terror. He would wake up in the middle of the night screaming and disoriented. We would go in the room and turn on the light, and then he would be fine. Well, my mother had kind of a similar thing happen to her. But it would not happen once a month. It would happen either once a day, twice a day, once a week, very often. She would hyperventilate, have difficulty breathing, and then she would bury her hands and start screaming in her hands for Jesus to come and help her. And this would happen a lot. This happened, and it would usually always affect us the same way. We'd have a sense of helplessness, not knowing what to do. Now, these seizures, some of them are psychic in her head, and some of them are neurological. She developed this as a toddler when she had the measles. They didn't have the vaccine there. This is why I tell people to get the vaccine. And she developed encephalitis. And this caused her brain to swell, and she went into a coma for a month. And so then after that, she began having these seizures. Well, needless to say, she was incapacitated a lot as a mother and difficult to deal with. So I guess you could say I came from a dysfunctional family. But we all either stepped up or acted out. My sister became the mother, I became the peacemaker, and my brother sort of became the clown. He was the provocateur. I used part of the word. But one thing that saved me was reading. And I'm coming to the end of my speech because it looks like my green button's on. But it caused me to really enjoy reading, and I started reading to myself as a child, and I learned how much I love to read and to act. And in high school, I got into acting. and I decided to go to college for theater. Well, so once I got to college for theater, I totally fell out of love with acting, and looked for a long time for something to replace that passion that I once felt. Well, I'm here to tell you that I'm coming to my second chance at the age of 50, because I have been able to act again, and I've been in plays and starting to really enjoy that again. And now I also have my own family, and my sister once told me that having your own family is like having a second chance. And I didn't understand that until the age of 37 when I had my daughter, and now I have my son. And I have that peace I always craved and prayed for as a child. My husband is very kind and calm, and we really have a wonderful family. So I'm actually looking forward to the age of 50 and not popping any black balloons, but I'm going to enjoy all the second chances I can get. Thank you.